Welcome in everyone, and today we're talking about backstories. Yes, Oda loves to hit us with a tragic backstory or 50 every arc. And now in current times, a little bit more about Brook's true originations. I think we can make a true list of Straw Hat backstories and how tragic each of them are. Here's a list. It looks amazing. We're going from least tragic to most tragic. So starting off at number 1, who I originally had at number 2, but I flip-flopped him at the last second for a certain reason. I think the least tragic is Luffy. He's born in Future Village to Dragon and a mystery woman who we haven't met, or have we? It could be Tritoma, it could be Crocodile, it's not, but we don't know who his mom is, probably still alive, although, with Oda, you never know. But Dragon is still alive, obviously. Grandpa. Dragon says, hey, Garp, take care of him. Garp says, hey, Dodon, take care of him. Hangs out with Sabo and Ace. And yeah, kind of a little bit of a rough childhood, but he was able to, do a lot of adventuring with his friends, which is kind of what he had wanted to do his entire time when he met Shanks. And Sabo dies, or he's thought. So he sees that kind of death early on, but that's really it. And of course, Sabo's really not dead. So I think Luffy's actually the least tragic, which is crazy. Number 2, who I originally had at number 1, but you'll see why I switched it in a second. We have Jinbei. Now, Jinbei is one of those guys that we don't have, super in-depth information about originally where he came from and his parents. We just know he started at an orphanage from our perspective, so he either got disowned or they died. We don't know, but the idea that they could be dead is why I have him at number 2, because once he goes to the orphanage, stuff actually starts to look up in a relative term. That's where he meets Arlong and Fisher Tiger, eventually joins Neptune's army, joins the Sun Pirates, and he does see Fisher Tiger die, which is really difficult. And then he leads the Sun Pirates along with Arlong, and then eventually becomes a warlord of the sea, and then meets Luffy. So, not actually that bad in comparison to everyone else. And I originally had it at number 1, but I think I'm going to go with number 2. And number 3 is a character that you might be surprised, because I'll tell you what, this one hit me pretty hard when I was watching the live action. We have Chopper. Yeah, so Chopper, at the beginning, right, his parents still there. They just didn't like him because he had a blue nose. That was it. And then when he ate the devil fruit, he got even more ostracized from his family and the other reindeer, and he started to realize what was happening. He's like, oh, wow, they don't like me. So eventually he gets kicked out and meets Dr. Hiruluk, who they get along really good. He learns medicine and everything. But then he learns that Hiruluk has a disease, and he is also going to die. But he tells Chopper, well, Chopper learns about this mushroom that apparently can save him, but of course it's just poison that further hurts him, but he dies from that disease anyways. So Chopper gets disowned, the person that take care of him dies, but then eventually he meets the Straw Hats. So not great, but compared to some of the ones on this list, it's not that bad. I think I have tiers. We've got this first tier here, this middle tier that I was really struggling to rank. And then we have the third tier, which is oh my god. So number 4. Number 4 and number 5, I went back and forth a lot, and I think there's just one key difference, which I've kind of been harping on. Number 4 is Frankie. Frankie had a tough one. He was born from Mads, which, if you don't remember, it's at, Science Division with Vegapunk, Caesar, Stussy, Queen, and Judge, who were kind of doing their thing 30, 40 years ago, and then eventually they got picked up by the world government when they were seen by a threat. Only Vegapunk and Caesar joined. He was born from Queen, which we kind of glossed over pretty quickly during Wano. Born from Queen and a random pirate, not random, but a mysterious pirate that we don't know from the South Blue 36 years ago. And at 10 years old, he got thrown overboard, which is pretty rough. But eventually he meets Tom on Scrap Island and also meets Iceberg. And Frankie's name, of course, is originally Cutty Flam, but Iceberg's like, hey, that's a weird name. We should change it. And they change it to Frankie. So stuff goes well for a while. He's getting to invent stuff, probably found by the perfect people. And then Spanum enters the equation, frames them, and then Tom takes a fall and dies. So, parent's still alive, but his mentor, Tom, is deceased, and that is why I have Frankie at 4. Number 5, I think you could have flipped, because it's a pretty simple one, but just from, Usopp is number 5, okay? We all know his mom died, and then his dad just was like, hey, that sucks. I have an adventure to do. You got this, right, Usopp? And he's just hanging out on the village by himself, just lying to people for years. Maybe not as tough as Frankie, but from a core person in his life, I have him at number 5. I think you could have him at 4 or 3, but that's just me. And then at number 6, we have Sanji. Sanji had a tough one. So originally, right, his dad was trying to genetically modify his sons and his daughter to make them stronger, and his mom sort of took a drug to try to counteract that, but It only counted one person, and it was Sanji. And in doing so, the drug ended up killing her. So his mom is dead, and he has like a genetic difference, or he's just normal when his brothers and sister are a little different. And his dad didn't like that. He called him weak, put him in a prison, and put an iron mask on his face just so he wouldn't see him. Yeah, pretty rough. And then, of course, eventually, like, they're attacking an island, and Reiju just sees, like, a passenger ship called the Orbit, and is like, Sanji, go! So eventually he does. He's on the Orbit for a while, and then Zeph attacks the ship. Now, although I think Sanji and Zeph are the only ones to survive that, that was actually probably a good thing, because what it appears he wasn't having a great time on the Orbit, and of course he acted like he wasn't having a ton of fun on the Baratier. But that was probably a good thing for him. He got to learn to cook. Like, he gets attacked by the cook pirates. Are you kidding? Also, Frankie finds Tom and Iceberg. Just a bunch of things that Oda, sends them in the right direction before crashing it down. But Zeph is still alive. He lost a leg, so earlier troubles for Sanji, and he gets a little bit better further on. Then, of course, he meets the Straw Hats. So, Sanji's at 6. Now, number 7 might actually surprise you, and you might think it should be a little higher. I have Zoro. By higher, I mean, like, towards the Chopper Frankie area. I have Zoro. So, by 8 years old, his dad was killed by pirates, and his mom died of illness. I don't even remember that. We just knew that he was at the dojo. And then, of course, Kuina dies to the stairs. And I guess that's actually canon. I thought that wasn't canon, and there was, like, some darker tones. But, like, it was actually the stairs? Was it? Very surprising to me, but I digress. He has all that happen, and then since then, Zoro's just kind of been like, alright, I need to train to get stronger. And that's really it. It's a very short backstory. I wonder if we're going to get more at some point. I think we would have at Wano if we were going to, so that might be it for Zoro, but they hit the big ticket items, Oda did, and then that was about it. So 8 through 10 is where it's like, whoa, this for me is in a little bit different of a tier. And 8 and 9, I was going back and forth again, like, which one would have sucked the worst? So at 8, I'm going to put Nami. Now, question, does anyone actually remember where Nami's originally from? I think they say it one time and that's it. I genuinely was like, crap, where did Bellemere find them again? I have no idea. It was, of course, it rolls off the tongue, the Oikot Kingdom. Who could forget? Not me. So originally that's where Bellemere found her and Nojiko. Everyone else died, so her original parents are dead. I'd seen people talk about, are we ever going to learn about them? And probably not. Same with Chopper's parents, because like Oda maybe doesn't want everyone to be special. You know what I mean? Just like they were just people. So eventually she's hanging out with Bellemere at Kokoyashi Village. They don't have a ton of money, but she's happy, or so it seemed. And then Arlong arrives, one of these two-parters that Oda likes to give us. And Arlong's like, hey, okay, I'll give you village back for 100 million berries. She eventually gets close, and that's when Arlong goes and steals all of it. I think she had it by the Tangerine Grove. Bellemere is dead, and then it was a tough time. I forget, did Arlong kill? Bellemere died originally, right, when they came. So Bellemere died originally, and then after that, Arlong's like, yeah, you work for me, you get a tattoo, and then you get 100 million berries. I'll give your village back. She does her job, doesn't get the village back. So number 8 was rough, really rough. There's something about women with Oda, because moms and then like the 2 women on the crew, I think you could argue have the worst, except for number 10. So number 9 is Robin, which means 10 is Brook. If you haven't read the chapters, you will hear what I'm talking about in a second. But number 9 is Robin. Wow, the demon of Ohara. Of course, as we all know, her entire country just gets annihilated by a Buster Call for doing research on the Void Century. We never meet her dad at all, but we do meet her mom, who dies during that time. And for 20 years, she traveled around different crews. She originally met some old lady at a farm who turned her in once she realized she had a bounty. And she joined her first pirate crew at, get this, 8 years old. Yeah, like, not from like some relation or anything, just found a pirate crew. And then, of course, joins Crocodile at 24. And I think we originally meet her at 28. So, very, very tough childhood. Not a fun one. And number 10, I think it just has to be, if you've read the current chapters, Brook. Wow, man, Brook was tough. Oda's like, hey, watch this. Best for last, huh, fellas? So, 90 years ago, this is going to have spoilers, so if you're not ready for spoilers, you might want to click off. Brook was born into the Asperia Kingdom. By the time we meet him at age 11, parents are already dead, his brother's dead, he's living, like, near starvation in, like, a trash heap in the kingdom. Not fun. Like, Oda gives some of them just, like, parent problems, and then he gives some of them that, plus, like, a tough life to begin with. Like, Zoro was at the dojo doing his thing when we learn about him. Jinbei, right, already kind of figured out his thing. Not Brook. Age 11, that happened to him. Then he meets Reuven, who is the prince, and eventually becomes the Raider Squad leader and then the actual battle convoy leader by 28 years old. So from 11 to 28, it was good. But from 28 to 88 until we meet him, 50 years, it was really, really bad. So at 28, the world government attacks him, and we don't know all of what happened in Asperia, but we have a pretty damn good idea, so I'm going to infer a few things here. But at 28, he's the battle convoy leader. They get attacked by the world government because they're trying to get Shuri, who we think is actually a celestial dragon and was formed by a similar thing of Ginny and Bonnie, Queen Kendall. You know what I'm saying if you have caught that rift. They get attacked. He sees Shuri kill Prince Reuven, who was the king, the man who had saved his life at 11. Shuri, the princess, who he was kind of guarding, getting to know all these years, is in like a demon form and kills her father like right in front of him. That's rough. The entire kingdom gets destroyed. We don't actually know yet how he escapes and how he leaves. So the kingdom that he got to live in for his whole life, finally built up a good relationship, had a great position, gets destroyed. The people that he was either protecting or protected him are dead or are now evil. Yeah, and that might not be the worst part of it. At 28, that's when that happens. At 38, he dies the first time, so there's like that 10-year gap, right, where he's with the Rumbar Pirates at some point. We don't actually know York and the crew. And we don't know who attacked them, but I wonder if we're going to get a flashback here of like the world government going, oh wait, that was that guy from Asperia, we need someone to attack them. So maybe that's who wiped out the Rumbar Pirates. He died at 38, and then we meet him at 88. So that means that like somewhere around 50 years, he was just chilling in the Florian Triangle after he went to Thriller Bark, or Thriller Bark came to him, rather. Crazy. Yeah. That's the worst one for me. Maybe Nami, Robin are for you, but if you think like the top three aren't correct, let me know who else, because I think those top three are like a little bit of a step above. But yeah, I think that is it for this one. 1186 is coming out later this week, so whenever that comes out, or the TCB scans come out, we're going to review that. And I keep threatening to do like a review of the worst One Piece movie. If you have seen them all, I bet you think you probably have a good idea what I'm talking about. Cursed Holy Sword. So we're going to do that at some point. But I think that's it for this one. If you have any ideas about the list and different orders, let me know. But you guys leave a like and sub. Help the channel a lot. And see you next time.